right. Hello, my name is Ashley Biddle, and today I'm going to be talking about student perceptions of a semester-long open pedagogy assignment that I used in my introductory psychology classes. So first, preaching to the choir, I know here, but what is open pedagogy? It invites students to become active co-creators of future course content or things that are going to be out in the world. Renewable assignments that live on beyond their course time. So it's not just a paper that they're writing for class and then no one ever uses it again. We usually assign a Creative Commons license to it so that other people can use it in the future. Some examples of open pedagogy that have been used are having students write textbook passages, having students create test bank questions, having students produce videos of content examples, and more. There's a lot out there. I know we're hearing about a lot this week at Open Ed. So past research has shown that overall there are positive feelings from students about open pedagogy. There's some confusion or concern about the open licensing aspect of it. Students do tend to rate open pedagogy assignments as more engaging than other class assignments, and they generally say they would like to take future classes with open pedagogy assignments. So the assignment inspiration for this particular assignment that I used came from Photo Voice, which began as a participatory research method back in the 90s. It's been used in other research studies around the world, looking at different issues, things like homelessness or what does your community need or this kind of thing. So it's this very adaptable method of having participants take pictures that mean things and then analyzing the pictures in light of the topic. So this was a semester-long open pedagogy assignment that I used in my courses. They were online asynchronous courses. So part one happened in about week 2 of the course, and that was a content analysis of the OpenStack psychology book, photos based on race and gender. So they were looking at the photos in that book, and each student took a chapter and labeled each photograph as who the race of people in it and the gender of people in it. Then I did some quick, just real simple analysis and showed it to them. And then part 2 was for every week for about 10 topics. So it was about 11 or 12 weeks. They submitted one picture on a class Padlet for each topic, and they said what the CC license would be. They were supposed to relate it to course content and also think about how it adds to the diversity of available photographs. And then part 3 was a final reflection project, and they posted 2 photographs on a class Flickr, which is openly available, with a CC license. So these are just some examples from some of my students. So the one with the mangoes on the left was thinking about our intelligence chapter and how you could make different solve problems different ways. So this one, she was talking about how to get the mangoes down, and there were too many mangoes, so she couldn't carry them, right? She couldn't do this, so she got a bike, and that was, going through the process of thinking about how things happen. This one on the right was a student which they submitted for our chapter on mental health, and they were talking about stress there. Okay, so then at the end of class, I gave students this survey. It had, this is what it was made up of. It had questions from these previous studies, and then a couple questions that were tailored to this specific assignment, some questions about demographics, and some open-ended questions about open pedagogy. So the sample With 32 students, 90% are female. Average age was about 28. 24% identified as LGBTQI. About 10% identified as having a disability. Average cumulative GPA was relatively high, 3.38. They had completed about 3 college semesters. Race was very diverse. Gender, not so much. Race was pretty diverse. 40% were identified as Asian. 22% identified as multiracial. 12% identified as Latinx, and about 10% identified as Native American or Native Hawaiian and or white, respectively. So first, I asked them to kind of reflect on their knowledge of CC license and familiarity with student-created content. And this was not pre and post. It was just asking them how familiar were they before, how familiar were they after, and they rated themselves significantly more familiar with both the CC licensing and student-created content after the course. So then this on the left are the questions they were asked about their perceptions of open pedagogy. And then there on the right in the yellow are their perceptions of their self. So I was especially interested in the excitement and concern one. So how excited were you to participate in a project that would be openly available to future college students? Though that was correlated with these ones that are bolded over here. So positively correlated with being generally trusting, positively correlated with being outgoing or sociable. Negatively, if they saw themselves as reserved, they were less excited. If they saw themselves as having few artistic interests, they were also less excited. And then the concern one, how concerned were you about your project being made available to the public? The only one that was correlated with was having few artistic interests. So if they thought they had few artistic interests, they were more concerned about their project being made available. So their top concerns, they were asked to choose from a list. And then there was an other category that they could choose and write, but nobody did. So they could check more than one, which is why these don't add up to 100. But these were their concerns about the open pedagogy assignment. First one was how it impacted their grade. That's what they were most concerned about, no surprise. Getting the facts right, which is obviously related to their grade. Their work being freely available, about 56% were concerned about that. That their work could be adapted or changed and they wouldn't know, about 40%. And then about 40% were concerned with that their work could be criticized and they wouldn't be able to defend it. Ooh, sorry. Okay, so another thing I was curious about was whether the students understood the diversity aspect of the project, right? That was a big part to me, but I wondered if they got that part. So, like I said before, they did a content analysis. I presented them simple analyses. I went through showing them how I calculated percentages from their data they submitted. Um, it their data showed an underrepresentation of women and people of color in the photographs within the book. And then I kind of introduced this diversity, this assignment as here's an opportunity to increase the diversity of photos that are available for future OER books like this. So then I asked them in an open-ended question in the post-course survey, just how they saw the photo voice assignment connected to the content analysis at the beginning of the term. So I tried to be as open as possible, not give them clues. And then I coded for their level of understanding, just a low, medium, or high. So low was students indicated no understanding of the purpose to increase diversity. So some examples are things like, I do not see the connection. They help bring connection, or it feels like it flowed perfectly into the final project, right? These things that say like, oh yeah, there was a connection, but don't have any indication that they understood this higher purpose. Medium was they make some mention of diversity concepts, but they didn't fully connect the two. And that's where 60% of the students fell. Um, since we've been sharing our photos, I've been observing photos differently and really taking the time to look at each picture I take or observe. Okay, that's kind of getting more into the details. Just one student just wrote diversity. So they got it sort of, but they didn't, you know, make the connection really. Um, the project connects to the content analysis because we reflect upon and explore the reasons. Okay, so they're getting into like a little bit more. They're almost there, but not quite there. And then students who had a high level of understanding made a clear connection between producing diverse pictures and the lack of diversity in the currently available textbooks. So you'll see there, the textbook felt more academic and less personal. Pictures allowed me to connect to the material more. Adds diversity to the photos already out there. It's correlated because we're using pictures to increase the diversity of images throughout the textbook, right? This was the home run one. We're attempting to increase the diversity in various sections of our textbook, right? Oh, and that student did not plant them, but they obviously understood it. So what did we learn from this project? Most students, as previous research showed, are very open to the idea of open pedagogy, especially students who see themselves as outgoing or trusting. So if there's maybe uh, a way at the beginning of class to kind of screen for who those students are and then use them to hype it up to everybody else. Um, but many students have concerns about the open nature of open pedagogy, but they're most concerned with their grades, right? So not a huge surprise, but good to get it confirmed. Okay, a thing I learned research wise is should definitely include pre and post course surveys to measure change that way. But this overall, this type of assignment can be effective at getting students to think about the diversity of available materials, but maybe should include more reminders about the purpose of the assignment uh, for for future. All right, and so that's it. Um, Feel free to email me questions, concerns, ideas you have about the data. And then if you'd like to, you can visit this site down here for the Flickr that my students post their final projects on. So you're welcome to go look at that too. All right. Thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing from you.